Welcome to another episode of Thailand Truth Talks. Imagine waking up on a quiet morning in your Thai apartment, the tropical sun filtering through your windows, birds chirping outside. You pour yourself a cup of coffee, settle into your favorite chair, and open your laptop to check your email. There it is, sitting at the top of your inbox, an official looking message from Kasikorn Bank. The subject lines make your heart skip a beat. Urgent. Tax declaration form requires immediate action. Your fingers hover over the mouse. The email looks legitimate. There's the familiar green K Bank logo, the professional formatting, even what appears to be an official government seal at the bottom. As you read the first lines, a knot forms in your stomach. As part of the automatic exchange of information and Thai tax law compliance, all foreign account holders must complete and return the attached form within 48 hours or risk account suspension. This is how it begins for thousands of expatriate retirees living in Thailand. What should be golden years of relaxation and tropical bliss are suddenly interrupted by sophisticated scams that prey on trust, fear, and the vulnerable position of being a foreigner navigating complex international banking regulations. Welcome to Thailand Truth Talks. Today, we're exposing two devastating scams that have emerged in late 2024 and early 2025, targeting the expat community with surgical precision. These aren't your typical Nigerian prince emails. These are calculated, emotionally manipulative schemes that have cost retirees their life savings and, in some cases, their will to trust anyone again. Stephen had been living in Thailand for 6 years, a retired engineer from Manchester. He'd carefully planned his retirement, chosen a comfortable condo, learned enough Thai to get by at the market, and even made friends at the local expat club. He thought he understood the system. He kept his visa current, filed his 90-day reports religiously, and maintained good relationships with his bank manager at the local Kasikorn Bank. That morning, as he read through the email, everything seemed to add up. He'd heard about FATCA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, from American friends at the pub. He knew that Thailand had started sharing banking information with other countries. Just last month, his friend Roger had mentioned receiving legitimate correspondence from his bank about tax information exchange. The timing couldn't have been more perfect for the scammers. The email continued, "Dear valued customer, in accordance with the Common Reporting Standard (CRS) and bilateral tax agreements, Kasikorn Bank is required to collect updated tax residency information from all foreign account holders. Please complete the attached tax declaration form and return it along with a scanned copy of your passport and a processing fee of 50 baht to ensure uninterrupted access to your accounts." 50 baht, less than $2. Such a small amount that it seemed insulting to question it. Stephen clicked on the attachment. A professional-looking PDF opened, complete with the bank's letterhead, reference numbers, and fields for his personal information. Passport number, tax identification number from his home country, current address, account numbers. He began filling it out. Name, date of birth, nationality. His hand paused at the tax ID field. Something nagged at him. The email address. He glanced back at the sender. It read no-reply@kasikorn-th.com. Was this right? Didn't the bank usually email from @kasikornbank.com? And that phrase in the second paragraph, to ensuring your compliance. The grammar was slightly off. Stephen's engineering mind kicked in. He minimized the form and picked up his phone, dialing the number on the back of his ATM card. After navigating through the Thai menu options, thank goodness for the English option by pressing 9, he reached a customer service representative. Yes, Mr. Stephen, the representative said in accented but clear English. Kasikorn Bank did send emails about FATCA and CRS compliance to some customers. But sir, we never ask for processing fees, and we definitely never request passport scans by email. All legitimate tax forms must be submitted through our secure online banking portal or in person at a branch. This email you received is a scam. Stephen's relief was palpable, but it was quickly replaced by anger. How close had he come to handing over his most sensitive information? His passport, his tax ID, his account details. Everything a criminal would need to steal his identity or drain his accounts. Across Thailand, expat forums exploded with similar stories. One retiree wrote, I got this K-Bank email yesterday. At first I panicked because I thought I'd missed some important deadline. The logo looked perfect. The language was mostly professional. But when I looked closer, the reply address was wrong, and they wanted me to send money to a personal account, not the bank. Another posted, they're getting clever. My version mentioned specific Thai tax law sections and even quoted the actual FATCA implementation date. If I hadn't called my branch, I would have fallen for it completely. The sophistication of these scams reveals a disturbing truth. The criminals behind them have done their homework. In late 2024, Kasikorn Bank had indeed begun requesting foreign tax information from customers as part of Thailand's compliance with international tax reporting standards. The bank's legitimate communications about FATCA and CRS created a perfect cover for scammers to operate. They studied the real emails, copied the formatting, and launched their attacks during the exact period when expats expected to receive such correspondence. But how do these scams actually work? The mechanics are both simple and sinister. First, scammers obtain email lists of expats living in Thailand. These can be purchased on the dark web or harvested from compromised databases. They know their targets are older, often less tech-savvy, and, crucially, anxious about maintaining their legal status in a foreign country. Next, they craft emails that mirror legitimate bank communications. They use official logos scraped from bank websites, copy legal language from actual FATCA notices, and time their campaigns to coincide with real regulatory changes. The small processing fee is genius in its psychology. It's too small to trigger major suspicion, but just official sounding enough to seem legitimate. Many victims later report thinking, why would a scammer ask for only 50 baht? The attachment usually contains malware or links to fake websites designed to harvest personal information. Once victims enter their details, the scammers have everything they need. Some use the information for identity theft, opening credit lines, or making purchases in the victim's name. Others sell the data to criminal networks. The most aggressive directly attempt to access bank accounts, though two-factor authentication has thankfully made this more difficult. What makes these scams particularly effective against expats is the element of fear. Living in a foreign country means constantly navigating unfamiliar bureaucracy. The threat of account suspension or visa complications triggers a primal anxiety. One British retiree explained it perfectly in a forum post. When you're a guest in someone else's country, you're always worried about breaking some rule you didn't know existed. That email hit every fear button I had. The warning signs were there, but they required careful attention to spot. Official Thai banks and government agencies almost never initiate contact through unsolicited emails requesting personal information. Any email demanding urgent action with a tight deadline should immediately raise suspicions. The language, while mostly professional, often contains subtle errors that native English speakers might catch. Misplaced articles, slightly awkward phrasing, incorrect prepositions. The email domain is crucial. Legitimate Kasikorn Bank emails come from at kasikornbank.com, not variations with extra letters, hyphens, or country codes. Scammers rely on people glancing quickly and missing these small discrepancies. They count on fear and urgency overriding careful scrutiny. Perhaps most importantly, legitimate banks have established secure channels for sensitive information. They will never ask you to email passport scans or enter tax IDs outside of their encrypted online banking platforms. Any request to send money to a personal account rather than an official bank account is an immediate red flag. But if the tax scam preys on bureaucratic fears, our second scam cuts straight to the heart, literally. Sean's story begins not with an email, but with loneliness. Divorced, retired from a successful career in Sydney, he'd moved to Thailand partly for the lower cost of living, but mostly for a fresh start. At 62, he wasn't ready to give up on romance. He met Nalin online. Her profile pictures showed a woman in her early 30s, attractive but not unrealistically so. Her English was good enough to hold conversations, but peppered with charming mistakes that made her seem genuine. They chatted for weeks before meeting in person at a respectable restaurant. She was everything her pictures promised: warm, attentive, seemingly genuinely interested in his stories about Australia. The relationship progressed quickly, but not suspiciously so. Nalin never asked for money, never hinted at financial troubles. She had a job at a hotel, she said, and lived with her family in the suburbs. When Sean offered to help with small things, a new phone when hers broke, money for her nephew's school supplies, she accepted graciously but never seemed to expect it. 6 months in, Sean thought he'd found something special. They spent weekends together. She'd introduced him to some of her friends, and while he knew their age difference raised eyebrows, he didn't care. He wasn't naive. He knew some relationships in Thailand were transactional, but this felt different, real. Then came the phone call that shattered everything. It was past midnight when his phone rang. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. The voice on the other end was Nalin's, but different, terrified, sobbing, barely coherent. "Sean, please, please help me," she gasped between sobs. "They took me. I'm so scared." His heart hammered in his chest. "Nalin, where are you? What happened?" "I can't. They said if I tell police, they kill me. They want money. So much money. My family cannot pay. Sean, please." The line crackled, and suddenly a man's voice came on, speaking accented English. "Your girlfriend owes money. Big debt from her family. She pay, or we sell her. You understand? She work for us now until debt is paid." Sean's mind raced. How much? What debt? This doesn't make sense. 1.5 million baht. You have 2 days. We send bank details. You tell police, she disappeared forever. You never find her. The line went dead. Sean sat in his dark apartment, hands shaking, trying to make sense of what had just happened. 1.5 million baht, about 45,000 US dollars. It was most of his emergency fund, money he'd carefully saved for medical expenses or unexpected costs in retirement. Over the next 48 hours, Sean's world became a waking nightmare. More calls came, Nalin, crying, begging. She told him a story about her father's gambling debts, how she'd been taken as collateral. She mentioned her young daughter, a child she'd never told him about before, who would be left orphaned if something happened to her. An email arrived with what claimed to be a police report, written in Thai with an English translation. It described a raid on an illegal gambling den where Nalin's father had been arrested and Nalin had been taken by creditors. The document looked official, complete with stamps and signatures. Another email contained a photograph. Nalin in what appeared to be a dingy room, her face puffy from crying, holding a Thai newspaper with the current date visible. If anyone finds out about us, Nalin whispered in one call, they said they'll send everything to your family. The photos we took, our messages. They know where you live, Sean. They know everything. The shame was overwhelming. Sean had been discreet about their relationship, but not invisible. What would his adult children think if they find out about Nalin? What would his friends back in Sydney say? The thought of being exposed as a stereotypical old expat with a young Thai girlfriend was almost as terrifying as the thought of Nalin being harmed. Sleep deprived, panicked, and isolated, Sean made the decision. He went to his bank, withdrew the maximum daily amount, and over the course of 2 days, made multiple transfers to the account numbers provided. Each time, he was promised this would be the last payment. Each time, Nalin called afterwards, still crying, saying they need just a little more. It was the silence that finally broke the spell. After the final transfer, the calls stopped. Nalin's phone went straight to voicemail. The threatening emails ceased. Sean waited a day, then 2, his anxiety transforming into a different kind of dread. On the 3rd day, desperate and exhausted, he went to the tourist police. The officer who took his report was kind, but unsurprised. This same story we hear many times, he said gently. The woman, the debt, the threats. Sorry. Sir, I'm sorry, but there was no kidnapping. We checked already. No police report filed with those reference numbers. The photograph, probably staged. The man's voice, maybe her boyfriend or brother. This is professional scam operation. Sean's humiliation was complete. He'd lost $45,000, but worse, he'd lost his ability to trust his own judgment. The Nalin he thought he knew had never existed. Every smile, every intimate moment, every expression of affection had been calculated manipulation. As Sean's story spread through expat forums, similar tales emerged from the shadows. Men too ashamed to report their losses came forward anonymously. The amounts varied. Some lost hundreds of thousands of baht, others their entire retirement savings. The stories always followed the same pattern. A relationship that seemed genuine, a sudden crisis involving trafficking or kidnapping, threats of exposure, and demands for money that escalated until the victim was drained or became suspicious. One anonymous poster wrote, "She played me for 8 months. 8 months of what I thought was a real relationship. Then suddenly she'd been sold to a brothel and needs 2 million baht for her freedom." They had videos, recordings of our private conversations. They threatened to post everything online, send it to my ex-wife. I paid until I had nothing left to give. These scams work because they exploit multiple vulnerabilities simultaneously. Loneliness makes victims eager to believe in their relationship. Cultural and language barriers make it harder to verify stories or detect deception. The age and wealth disparity create guilt that scammers weaponize. The stigma around these relationships keeps victims from seeking help or advice. The production value of these scams has increased dramatically. Scammers now create elaborate backstories, complete with fake social media profiles for extended family members. They use voice changing software, staged photographs, and forged documents. Some operations employ multiple people to play different roles: the girlfriend, the threatening kidnapper, the sympathetic friend who confirms the story. The psychological manipulation is masterful in its cruelty. Scammers spend months building trust and emotional connection. They gather information about the victim's fears, financial situation, and family relationships. When they strike, they use everything they've learned to maximize effect. The shame and fear of exposure become weapons as powerful as the supposed physical threats. Across Thailand, the expat community has begun to mobilize against these scams. Online forums now feature pinned warnings about the latest tactics. Expat clubs hold seminars on digital safety and scam awareness. Veterans share their close calls and hard learned lessons, hoping to protect newcomers from similar fates. We're seeing an evolution in criminal tactics, one long term resident observed in a popular forum. These aren't random attempts anymore. They're targeted, researched, and professionally executed. The criminals know our weak points, the tax fears, the relationship dynamics, the isolation from home support systems. The Thai authorities have also taken notice. While exact statistics are hard to obtain, local police stations report increasing complaints from foreign residents about sophisticated fraud attempts. Some banks have added extra warnings to their websites, specifically addressing the fake FATCA emails. Tourist police have created multilingual resources about romance scams, though many victims remain too embarrassed to report their losses. The global nature of these crimes makes them particularly difficult to prosecute. The scammers often operate from other countries, using VPNs and anonymous payment methods. Even when local accomplices are identified, the masterminds remain out of reach. The money, once sent, is quickly moved through multiple accounts and converted to cryptocurrency or cash, making recovery nearly impossible. But knowledge remains the best defense. Understanding how these scams operate, recognizing the warning signs, and knowing when to seek help can mean the difference between a close call and a financial ruin. Never give out personal information in response to unsolicited emails, regardless of how official they appear. Real banks and government agencies have established secure channels for sensitive communications. They don't demand urgent action through email or threaten immediate consequences for non compliance. Check email addresses character by character. Scammers rely on quick glances missing small discrepancies. That extra hyphen or slightly different domain could be the tell that saves your identity and your savings. Watch for language that doesn't quite fit. While scammers have improved their English dramatically, subtle errors still creep through. Unusual phrasing, incorrect article usage, or overly formal language is supposedly urgent communications should trigger suspicion. Beware the small fee trap. Asking for trivial amounts like 50 baht makes requests seem legitimate and official. Real organizations don't nickel and dime their customers with tiny processing fees for important documents. If you're in a relationship with someone you met in Thailand, maintain healthy skepticism about sudden crises. Real emergencies can happen, but elaborate kidnapping or trafficking stories that require immediate large payments are almost always scams. No legitimate crisis is ever solved by a foreigner wiring money to a personal bank account. Take time to verify any threatening or urgent situation. Contact local police. Speak with trusted friends. Consult with other expats who lived in Thailand longer. Scammers rely on isolation and urgency. Breaking that isolation and taking time to think clearly often reveals their deception. Get second opinions on any documents or communications that seem official but feel wrong. Many expats have Thai speaking friends or professional contacts who can quickly identify forged documents or suspicious languages. Don't let embarrassment prevent you from seeking help. It's far better to feel foolish for checking than devastated for not checking. Report suspicious emails and scam attempts to relevant authorities. While recovery of lost funds is rare, reporting helps authorities track patterns and warn others. Your report might save another retiree from losing their life savings. Beyond the financial losses, these scams exact a devastating psychological toll. Victims describe feelings of profound betrayal, shattered self-confidence, and persistent anxiety. The tax scam victims question every official communication, spending hours verifying legitimate emails. Romance scam victims struggle to form new relationships, their ability to trust fundamentally broken. One victim shared his ongoing struggle. It's been a year since I lost everything to what I thought was love. I still wake up at night sometimes, angry at myself for being so stupid. But I wasn't stupid. I was human. I wanted connection, companionship. They exploited that basic human need. The ripple effects extend to families back home. Adult children discover their parents' losses, leading to difficult conversations about financial management and decision-making capacity. Some victims are forced to return to their home countries, unable to afford the retirement they'd carefully planned. Others stay but live in greatly reduced circumstances, their golden years tarnished by financial stress. The expat community itself suffers as these scams breed suspicion and isolation. New retirees arrive to find a community wary of newcomers, hesitant to share information or form friendships too quickly. The open, welcoming atmosphere that many sought in moving to Thailand becomes clouded by caution and mistrust. Yet there's also resilience and solidarity. Expat groups have created buddy systems for verifying suspicious communications. Retired lawyers and accountants volunteer their expertise to help others navigate legitimate tax and banking requirements. Support groups meet quietly in coffee shops and community centers, offering judgment-free spaces for victims to share their experiences and begin healing. As we move through 2025, these scams will undoubtedly evolve. Artificial intelligence will make phishing emails more convincing. Deepfake technology will make video evidence harder to dispute. And cryptocurrency will make money harder to trace. But the fundamental tactics, exploiting trust, creating urgency, leveraging fear and shame, will remain constant. The expat community in Thailand faces unique vulnerabilities, but it also possesses unique strengths. The diversity of backgrounds bring varied expertise. Former IT professionals who can spot technical scams, retired law enforcement who recognize criminal patterns, teachers and counselors who understand psychological manipulation. When this knowledge is shared freely and without judgment, the community becomes stronger than any individual scammer's scheme. Education remains crucial. New arrivals need orientation not just on visa requirements and healthcare options, but on the criminal landscape they're entering. Banks and government agencies must improve their communication strategies, making it crystal clear how they will and won't contact customers. The stigma around falling for scams must be reduced. These aren't failures of intelligence, but successes of criminal manipulation. Technology companies and financial institutions have roles to play. Better email filtering, clearer domain verification, more robust identity confirmation processes. These technical solutions can create barriers that make scamming more difficult and less profitable. Two-factor authentication, while sometimes inconvenient, has already prevented countless account takeovers. The Thai government, recognizing that crimes against expats damage the country's reputation as a retirement destination, has begun implementing stronger consumer protections and law enforcement responses. While progress is slow, the trajectory is positive. International cooperation agreements are making it harder for criminals to operate across borders with impunity. But ultimately, the best defense remains an informed, connected, and vigilant community. Every retiree who questions a suspicious email, every person who seeks advice before sending money, every victim who shares their story to protect others, these individual actions collectively create an environment where scammers cannot thrive. Retirement in Thailand should be a time of exploration and enjoyment, not fear and paranoia. The vast majority of interactions with banks, government officials, and potential partners are legitimate and honest. These scams, while sophisticated and damaging, represent a small fraction of daily life in the kingdom. The stories we've shared, Stephen's near miss with the tax scam, Sean's devastating romance fraud, are cautionary tales, not inevitable outcomes. They remind us that criminals are constantly adapting, finding new ways to exploit trust and vulnerability. But they also demonstrate that awareness, skepticism, and community support can protect us. If you receive an urgent email from your bank, pause before responding. If a relationship suddenly becomes a crisis requiring money, step back and seek advice. If something feels wrong, trust that instinct. Your caution might feel excessive, but it's far preferable to the alternative. Share these stories with others in the expat community. The newly arrived retiree, excited but overwhelmed, needs to hear them. The lonely widower, seeking companionship, needs to understand the risks. The couple navigating Thai banking for the first time needs to know what legitimate communications look like. Report suspicious activities to authorities and community groups. Your report might seem insignificant, but patterns emerge from individual incidents. The email you forward to the tourist police might be the piece that completes the puzzle, leading to arrests or warnings that save others. Remember that falling for a scam doesn't make you foolish or naive. These criminals are professionals who study psychology, use advanced technology, and operate with a ruthlessness that most of us can barely comprehend. They succeed not because their victims are stupid, but because they're skilled at manipulation. Support those who've been scammed. Instead of judgment, offer understanding. Instead of, I would never fall for that, try, that must have been terrifying. Creating a supportive environment where victims feel safe sharing their experiences makes the entire community more resilient. Stay informed about evolving threats. Scammers don't rest, and neither should our vigilance. Regular check-ins with community forums, attendance at expat club meetings, and conversations with long-term residents help maintain awareness of the latest tactics. The criminals behind these scams want us isolated, fearful, and shamed. They profit from our disconnection and vulnerability. But when we stand together, share information freely, and support each other without judgment, we become stronger than any scam. The retirement dream that brought us to Thailand doesn't have to become a nightmare. With knowledge, community, and vigilance, we can protect ourselves and each other from those who would exploit our trust. Your golden years in Thailand can still be everything you hoped for, full of adventure, new experiences, and genuine connections. Don't let fear of scammers rob you of that joy. Instead, let awareness be your shield, community be your strength, and knowledge be your power. The paradise you sought is still here, waiting to be enjoyed. You just need to navigate it with your eyes open and your guard appropriately raised. Trust, but verify. Connect, but cautiously. Enjoy, but aware. This is the path forward for expat retirees in Thailand. A balance between openness to new experiences and protection from those who would exploit that openness. The scammers may be evolving, but so are we. And together, informed and united, We're stronger than any scheme they can devise.